Let's round out our forward season grades. Who passed with flying colors and who flunked? Could it be the Captain Jamie Benn or other veterans like Mikael Granlund, plus the rookie Mavrik Bourque?
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer 105 through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Welcome to our final group of 2024-25 season grades for the forwards on this Wednesday edition of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We have 5 more forwards to round out this group. We'll begin with Jamie Benn. We have Mavrik Bourque, Mikael Granlund, Evgenii Dadonov, and Collin Blackwell. So this will be a jammed-packed episode here of Locked On Stars. I want to thank you for joining us as always and all the love and support. Be sure to subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. As always, let me know your letter grade in the comments below. We're starting with Jamie Benn. And looking at Jamie Benn's season as a whole has me asking the question, is this the final season or maybe the beginning of the end for Jamie Benn? And you could even maybe make the case that was last year or the year previously, but it's starting to look like the decline is here for Jamie Benn. He played in 80 games. He had 16 goals, 33 assists, and 49 points. That's not awful by any stretch of the imagination. Was 56% in the face-off dot. In 18 playoff games, however, just the 1 goal, a couple of assists for 3 points. He was actually not very good in the face-off dot, below 50%, which is not very good by Jamie Benn standards, 45.6% in the dot during the postseason. He led the Stars with 70 penalty minutes in the regular season. He was second during the postseason with 26. He had his least amount of power play goals in his career, just 1. And that was really, really shocking to me. Of course, he scored the 1 power play goal, I want to say in game 1 against Winnipeg. I could be wrong on that. Or maybe it was game 3 against Colorado. I remember he had that really big power play goal for Dallas against Colorado in Denver. It wasn't Winnipeg, excuse me. But in Denver, he had the 1. And I remember I looked back and Jamie just had 1 power play goal during the regular season, the least amount of his career, which was very, very shocking to me. His expected goals at 5-on-5 was 4.00, which was second only behind Mikko Rantanen in the playoffs. And I saw a lot of this being discussed on Twitter and other various websites that Jamie Benn actually had a pretty decent playoff run. Maybe he was a bit unlucky in terms of his production, and I think a lot of the numbers would bear that out. His goals above expected in the playoffs was a -4. That was last on Dallas, so that would tell you he was a bit unlucky, but I would also say the eye test just wasn't quite there for me with Jamie Benn. We just didn't see that overly powerful power forward that we've grown and loved in Dallas, especially come playoff time. I've always said Jamie Benn in the Stanley Cup playoffs is a different animal, and we just didn't quite get that, especially the guy that goes after the opponent, the real intimidator, and we just really didn't see that. And maybe it was because he was playing less than he may have ever had in his career at points. And that's what makes the penalty minute conversation stand out to me, because he played really less than 1,000 minutes this season, but he had quite a few penalty minutes. And look, some of that is just being an aggressor and being a bit of an agitator. So you're going to take some of those with a grain of salt. But what really stood out to me with Jamie Benn was looking at some other statistics, like his shots on goal this past season in 24-25, 136 shots on goal. That was the 3rd least in his career, 3rd least amount of shots on goal. The only 2 worst seasons were in years he played less games. And that was 2021 when they played 52, or what was it, 54, I think maybe with the total, but either way, he played 52. And then you had the lockout season in 2012-13. He played in 41 games. He had 110 shots, but he played nearly 80 games, and it was the third least amount of shots on goal in his career, 136. So it tells me a bit that he's obviously not throwing as many pucks on net. He's not testing netminders as much as he had in the past, and that sort of coincides with his power play goal production. And look, 16 goals isn't awful, but it's the third least in his career. The two worst seasons before that, you guessed it, were 2012 and it was 2020. So the lockout again, and then coming out of COVID. So I think we're now really seeing the potential decline of Jamie Benn. And yes, this doesn't factor in to my overall grade by any means, but I think it is relevant to have this conversation a bit. His shooting percentage was 11.8. That's in the bottom 5 of his career. But and then just looking at some overall numbers in general, like I said, some of his advanced numbers in the postseason weren't ugly, but the production didn't follow. Sort of a similar conversation we had with Matt Duchene the other day. But you look at his hockey stat card rating, his offensive rating plus 4.5, his defensive rating minus 3.6 for a net rating of 0.9. And yeah, he hasn't been as strong defensively. We saw him with Bourque and Benn, or Bourque and Wyatt Johnston for stretches of this last season, and that line gave up a lot. They left a lot to be desired defensively. They really couldn't pitch in offensively as much either, but we saw him heavily with Evgenii Dadonov and Wyatt Johnston as well towards the end of the season. And it felt like Benn and Johnston just weren't working as well as they had in years past. Of course, Jamie's had a bit of that career resurgence, sort of in his mid-30s, where he had some really, really strong seasons, like 60 points in 23-24, at 78 in 22-23. Just wasn't quite there for him this season. And you look at, his points per 60. It was about middle of the pack in his career. Wasn't awful, 2.40, but he is playing a bit less as well. But it's really the postseason production that kind of really stood out and stunk. It was the second worst of his career. The only worst one was, in terms of points, was in 21-22. He played in 7 games. It was the one series, and he had a goal in an assist. But outside of that, just really not much. And y'all know I was griping about his penalties quite a bit during the postseason as well. We really never got that Jamie Benn, and we started to have the conversation. He's just kind of a fourth liner at this point. He's a fourth line checking forward, and it's just not a suitable role really for Jamie. And I don't think it's going to get any better. He was a minus 11 during the playoffs. Again, just kind of throwing that out there. I know we don't put a ton of stock into the plus minus these days, but it wasn't very good in that matter. And you can look at his playoffs. He finished the Stanley Cup playoffs with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, an 8-game pointless drought. And he had 3 points, or just 2 points in the first series against Colorado, and he had 1 assist against Winnipeg. But you look at his average time on ice numbers, he's hovering at about 11:45 is sort of where he was living this past season, and that's just a bit mind-boggling in some ways, but that's just where he is. So he averaged about 13 minutes, but especially as it got deeper into the postseason, he was playing less and less, and it just felt like he was less and less effective. And again, it's just weird to say that with Jamie Benn, because I feel like it always brings out the best of him, that type of hockey. And we really didn't see that for the first time, I feel like, in his career, which is concerning. And of course, it seems like the Stars are going to have him back. It seems that he will be returning to Dallas next season. So, what does another year look like? Are we going to get a better year or about the same year that we got from him this past season? I don't know. I feel like it's going to be pretty hard to live up to, especially where he may be playing in the lineup. Is he still going to fit in alongside Wyatt Johnston, depending on how this offseason goes? Or is he going to be kind of relegated that fourth line checking role, which he can still, I think, be suitable in to some degree, just sort of his style. But it is a really different role that he's going to have to adapt to. Like, he's not going to get as much power play time, you would think, although he could become sort of a bit of just a specialist there. It'd just be rather interesting. But I think now we're really starting to see it with Ben. And look, he's 35, 36 years of age. I think his style of play is not going to age that gracefully. Anyways, all that being said, I give Jamie Benn a C. Maybe that's harsh, but I'm giving Jamie a C, I guess, for him being the C of the Dallas Stars. So that's my official grade on 2024-25 for the Captain Jamie Benn. Let's move on to Mavrik, Bourque, and Mikael Granlund. So the grizzled vet and then the rookie. We'll have some official grades for them in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. It's completely online. Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. You can even read real customer reviews on the site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL and use code LockedOnNHL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL and use promo code LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. So we're going to couple up some different forwards here to close out this edition of Locked On Stars, since we have a few more to get to. And we'll start this segment off with Mavrik Bourque. Yes, the rookie, which I think we all had higher expectations for and ended up being mainly used as in a fourth line checking role, which he was pretty successful at stretches throughout the season. And I've said it ad nauseum. I'm sure many of you are tired of hearing me say it, but I thought he increasingly got better as the season wore along. Played in 73 games, 11 goals, 14 assists, 25 points, which I don't think is that awful when you look at where he was playing in the lineup for a major chunk of this past season. In the faceoff dot, he was 46.3%. Not terrible for a rookie. We've talked about it a bit. That's an area where young players can struggle at. In the playoffs, he only played in 3 games, however. He had 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points. He was 3 for 7 in the faceoff dot. He played most of his minutes with Jamie Benn and Wyatt Johnston. I mentioned this with Jamie just a minute ago. 77 minutes with Ben and Johnston, and they weren't very successful offensively, but they also weren't very successful defensively as well. They gave up a pretty large expected goals against number. And then he hovered a lot in that 75-minute range with a lot of different combinations, right? He played with Steele, he played with Beck, and that was an incredibly well run checking defensive line for the Dallas Stars. Really any combination they kind of threw out there. And you can look at some of his advanced numbers. He ranked 10th on the Stars in expected goals at 5-on-5 this season, 9.9. That was via Money Puck. He had 48 minutes, 4-on-5 PK time, so he got some opportunities on the PK. Is a very well-rounded player. But as a defender, I think he's one of the strongest the Stars really had in some ways. You can look at it, his expected goals against numbers. They rank very highly this season. He was really middle of the pack in a lot of different numbers. That's just sort of where he lived this season. And we didn't get to see him maybe take the leap we were hoping for. And that makes me really anxious, or maybe not anxious, I guess optimistic about next season and years in the future with Mavrik Bourque, because I do think once he plays in a role which we think he's going to be suitable in, and I think it's fair to say we believe Mavrik Bourque can be a top 6 center iceman. Maybe he's your third center. At least, right? Third center, they can play on the wing in the top 6 potentially, and be a decent goal scorer, can be that scoring, skating winger, and plays a nice two-way style. I think that is a very manageable expectation of Mavrik Bourque, and that gets me excited to see where he can be in the future. We didn't quite see that. He was relegated, as I said, to more of that fourth line role. So maybe we didn't get to see as much offensive pop as we were hoping for. But, in a rookie campaign, 11 goals isn't awful. 25 points. I want to see him somewhere in the 45-50 range next season, depending on his role. But when he's playing with Collin Blackwell back and Steele on that fourth line, not going to get a ton of opportunities. And I know that was a gripe early on this season, that he's not going to score if you don't play him alongside the guys like Wyatt Johnston. He got some time with Ben and Duchesne even, but he has to earn some of those roles as well. And I think he started to do that a bit, but he's still only gotten to 3 playoff games. I gave him a C+ this season. We want more out of Mavrik Bourque, but for a rookie campaign, it's not awful. Again, this may be a bit harsh. I think I'm getting harsher as these grades go on, but I'll probably change your view with the next 3 guys. I think I have some pretty high grades here for the final 3. Let's switch into Mikael Granlund, of course, who was acquired on February 1st from the San Jose Sharks. And boy, he really fit like a glove. Maybe not in the regular season, so to speak, but once the playoffs rolled and he was paired up with Roope Hintz and Mikko Rantanen, boy, the finish line went berserk. But he played 83 games this season between San Jose and Dallas. 22 goals, 44 assists, and 66 points. And when you go through his career, this was one of the best seasons for Mikael Granlund. And I'll just come out and say it. If he plays his entire year in Dallas, he easily breaks career highs in points, goals, and all that. His career high in points was 69 with Minnesota in 81 games. He had 66 this past season. One of the best seasons of his career that was combined between San Jose and Dallas, of course. He had 45 points in 52 games with San Jose. He had 21 points in the final 31 games here in Dallas. And if you remember, he was really snake bitten. He just could not score. Although he had some great looks, that was really the case for everybody on the Dallas Stars, really the final, month and a half of the season, but had a really solid postseason run, right? 5 goals, 5 assists, and 10 points. Of course, had the hat trick in game 1 against Edmonton. Incredible there from Granlund. He had 16 even strength goals this past season, which was tied for the most of his career. He was 6th on Dallas with expected goals for 29.28 since being acquired by the Stars on February 1st. That was at 5-on-5. So he really fit, I think, Dallas. I think he was a really, really great fit. I think we thought he was going to play alongside Ben and Johnston a bit more, but that wasn't clicking when they tried it. And then, of course, Dallas went down with some more injuries, so they really had to shuffle him around, and he finally fell at home with Rantanen and with Hens. His offensive rating this season plus 5.9. Not a very well-known defender. Minus 7.6 was his defensive rating. So not very, very good at all. I would love for him to stay, but I think the Stars are going to be priced out. But I gave Mikael Granlund an A / kind of A minus. It's kind of where I lived with Granlund. I think maybe if you played an entire year, we'd have a bit of a different view, but for what he was in Dallas, for what it looks like, maybe the 3 or 4 months, I thought he was productive for the most part. Still played really strong with Rantanen and Hintz, which the Stars desperately just needed kind of a line to pop off and at least carry some of the load. And boy, did they do that. And he's a lot of fun to watch. I think he's just such a good playmaker. He's really calm with the puck, makes smart decisions, has really, really high hockey IQ, was great on the power play too, and just pretty consistent when he was here. And it was good to get him out of San Jose a bit as well, have him compete. And I think he was a great part of Dallas, and he's probably going to get paid for it a bit here as a unrestricted free agent. So A kind of / A minus for Mikael Granlund. For me. Let's finish up with a couple of fourth liners. We got Evgenii Dadonov and Collin Blackwell to round out today's episode of Locked On Stars. We'll do that in just a moment. Alrighty, a couple of grizzled vets to close this one out. And I think two guys that many Stars fans just love in a lot of ways. I don't really know how you can't like Evgenii Dadonov in Collin Blackwell in a lot of ways, especially Collin Blackwell. But we'll start here with Evgenii Dadonov. What a season, really, in a lot of ways. At 34 years of age, at 35, a 20-goal season, 20 assists for 40 points. He had 15 even strength goals, and he added 5 power play goals. His shooting percentage of 16.3% was second in his career. His actually largest 2 shooting percentage seasons were the past 2 years here in Dallas. We all know Peter Bourque trusts him, had decent playoff numbers as well. 4 points this past postseason in 16 games. He's had some really strong, productive years in Dallas, and he gave them some speed on the bottom 6. And he could be elevated a bit, play with Benn and Johnston as well. But just a really, really nice campaign from Evgenii Dadonov in a lot of ways. He was available. He's there, right? And he was productive when he was in the lineup. And again, he wasn't playing a ton. His average time on ice this past season was 13.5 minutes, 4th lowest in his career, really really second lowest when you look at it, just because some of the average time on ice numbers, he played 4 or 5 games that season. So his offensive rating plus 1.3, defensive rating was a minus 1.2, but just a really just kind of even-keeled season from Dadonov. I kind of throw Blackwell into this conversation. I think Oscar Beck as well. Just sort of zero-sum players. You're not going to get a ton from them. You're not going to get you're not going to give up a ton when he's out there, right? And you can look at the goal for numbers of Dadonov was on the ice for 48 goals at 5-on-5 this regular season. He was on the ice for 46 against. So it's not like you're giving up a bunch, but he is chipping in offensively a bit as well. I think Blackwell kind of mixes into that conversation as well. I gave Dadonov an A. I think just a solid A. Yeah, that's where I land on Dadonov. Now, for Collin Blackwell, our final forward to close out today's show and to round out our forward group. Blackwell, I'll just come out and say it. I gave Blackwell an A as well. Just how could you not like a guy like Blackwell? High motor. He's a veteran, wasn't in the lineup all the time, but became sort of an unsung hero this past season. 63 games played, had 17 points, 6 goals. Just an energizer, buddy. When the Stars were going bad, they could count on Blackwell to give them a spark. Saw it in the postseason too. Had the one goal in the postseason. It was a giant one, the Game 2 winner against Colorado in overtime. Just a massive goal. Just gave the Stars some life when they really needed it at points in the season when, man, it was just a drag. He was excellent. Third among forwards of shorthanded time this past season too, was a part of that really, really strong group. Just really incredible defensively as well. Again, zero-sum player. He was on the ice for 21 goals. He was on the ice for 20 against. Scoring chances when he was on the ice, 244, 223 against. So you're not giving up a ton. He's part of that just shut down checking line for Dallas. Played with Steele, played with Beck, played with Bourque, played with them all in and out of the lineup. You know what you're going to get out of Collin Blackwell, and you love players like that. At his age, was excellent this past season. And of course, we've documented his injuries throughout his career. Hasn't been easy for him by any stretch. And he just continues to go out there, play his bag off, and hopefully maybe earns a contract for next season as well here in Dallas. I think you love to have players like that around that just work extremely hard and do all the gritty, grimy stuff that doesn't always get recognized, doesn't show up in the stat sheet, and just had a really nice season here in Dallas. So I give Blackwell an A. He was fun to watch. I was pretty high on him when the Stars signed him in the offseason. I definitely had too high of expectations in terms of point totals. I was like, because in years past, he's played in the top 6. That's not who he is, but he's had some run-in time with some more scoring opportunities. But here in Dallas, just that fourth line checking role. And he just did it to perfection, and was just fun to watch because he just works hard. His energy was always there. And as I said, in the last couple months of the season when Dallas was just struggling, like that fourth line was the Stars' best line. It's unfortunate they not going to just light up the lamp by any stretch. Like they can't light it up. But when they're spending time in the offensive zone, keeping the other team's best players away from their own net, they're doing their job. And they've done it. They did it incredibly well, whether it was Beck, whether it was Bourque, Blackwell, you name it. They did it really, really good. So, so a couple A's there to round out this forward group of season grades for the Dallas Stars, which means now we can move on to some defensemen, which will take a bit less time, and we'll officially wrap that up. Maybe we can get it done by the end of the week. We'll see how I kind of group the defensemen together. Probably with the top 3, I can do a segment on each, and then maybe group some guys together, maybe get 2 more episodes out of it, probably finish out this week. So we'll see how that goes. Might as well kind of wrap it up before we got some more pressing stuff to get to. Of course, we have free agency on the horizon. We got the draft coming up. Of course, the Stars don't have their first 2 round draft picks. So we're going to have to wait till like day 3 probably, or maybe it's day 2 before they get to make a selection, and we can get into some of that good stuff as well. But offseason moving quickly. It's been going good so far. And also I do want to say a big thank you to all of you that have tuned in. The numbers are just amazing, better than ever. And I really appreciate that. And the more you guys tune in, listen, like the more stuff I want to pump out, the more content we can produce here. If y'all are eating it up. So we really, really appreciate that. And that's just across the board, not just my channel. I'm covering the Stars. I know everybody's is. And we really, really appreciate that. And y'all just rocking along with us, because it makes the offseason a lot easier. It really does when y'all are riding with us, and makes us work harder, which is good as well, which we need to kick in the rear end sometimes. Just rambling at this point, but that'll do it for this Wednesday edition of Locked On Stars. Wraps up the forward groups of season grades. We got the defensemen upcoming here in the next few days. Have a great rest of your day, Stars fans, and we will see you on the next episode. So long.